It's Coffin is Alive YouTube channel. I look at comic books new and old. Today I'm looking at the newest issue of X-Men, X-Men number 6, Legacy number 306. Got Ryan Stegman on the cover here. Netho Diaz is the interior artist. Jed McKay is the writer. Sean Parsons is on inks, and Marte Gracia is doing the colors here. I kind of like this cover by Ryan Stegman. It's very much like a Jack Kirby-esque kind of design with like all the guns at the bottom of the page pointing at the characters here. Weird face on Magic though. We got the X-Men in Alaska here. This is kind of a cool team, but this is a weird issue. A lot of dialogue and just set up for stuff happening in future issues. The artwork is really great, though. I think Netho Diaz is doing a really great job on these fill-in issues. You really can't, you don't see any dip in quality between the Stegman and Diaz issues at all, I feel like. So, just some really nice detailed stuff. He doesn't skimp on the backgrounds or anything. Like all the cross-hatching there, just on this background, reminds me of some like Liefeld stuff in some early X-Men or X-Force comics, but then we get some really detailed backgrounds here in some of the other shots. We get some cult favorite X-Men here as well, Glob, Zorn. I don't really understand why Magneto's here, though. He's just trying to get everybody to fall in line with what he believes as usual, although he makes a good point here. He's saying about these new humans, these full-grown adults that are turning into mutants. He's saying, we call them mutants. Allow me to be clear. I make no distinction between mutants born and mutants made, and neither will the X-Men. So they're welcoming these new mutants in here, and Magic, all she wants is the Santa Marco 6, who were some humans that became mutants and attacked the X-Men back in the first issue, and they were working with Orcus. So Magic just wants their heads. We do kind of get a bit of a foreshadowing of perhaps this current beast devolving into Dark Beast in this issue, which is something to keep an eye out for. Again, a lot of dialogue in here. In the past few pages, they're just talking about the mutant X gene and what Cassandra Nova, who seems to be the one who's created it, and her new team 3K, they're just trying to figure out what their ultimate plan is. And now Magic, she's got her own plans here. She's trying to help this one child who is a daughter of these mutant protesters who we saw at the beginning of the book. So a very typical X-Men storyline here of the X-Men trying to help this young new mutant get out of the toxic home life that she's in because her parents hate mutants, and this child is discovering that she's a mutant. So some really nice panels here, though, by Netho Diaz of just like Temper and Magic talking. Really well done. I think Netho Diaz draws like really great hands, as we'll see throughout this book. He really keeps the story going from panel to panel, even if they're all just sitting at chairs and talking. And the dialogue in this story, I think, is pretty good too, even though there's a lot of it. Not a whole lot of action in this book. But this is where the storyline does get pretty weird. So we've got this, again, she's this child, and her mother was one of the protesters, and she hates mutants. She even wants her daughter to get her friends to come to the protests. But then she suddenly just falls asleep, and it's revealed it's because of Magic and Temper, who come through this portal. And they introduce themselves to the little girl saying that they're X-Men after putting her mom to sleep. And so then we do get a little bit of an excuse for some action here, as just Cyclops and Psylocke are training. And Magneto wants to know if Beast would be able to use this new artificial X gene that they have found out that create mutants in full-grown human adults. While Beast is concerned that he's going to be turning into Dark Beast. So we do get some foreshadowing of that as well. And Beast recommends that Magneto might want to talk to Fabian Cortez about getting his powers back. So the kid is obviously scared of these two women who have just come into her house and put her mom to sleep and are trying to like take her away. It's pretty odd. It's a little bit off-putting, even though I understand the motives of Magic and Temper. It doesn't seem right, and Cyclops even brings that up once they bring the little girl back. He says, "I know who she is, if not what." He says, "Idea, I wish you would have come to me about this before bringing a minor into our home without, I can only imagine, the consent of her guardian." And Temper says, "I couldn't wait for you and Hank and Magneto to come to a decision, Scott." So she just totally goes over the heads of her superiors here. She says, "Besides, Piper is important." And then Piper, the little girl, she reveals that it was her, the Iron Knight. She says it was my fault. And then we're reminded of the giant Sentinel that's looming over this town. So apparently this little girl had something to do with what was happening back in the first issue of this X-Men series and why this giant Sentinel is stuck here over the town. And she says the wild Sentinel was after me. So at least we do find out that. And again, some really nice hands here on this Sentinel. Really cool looking drawing. And that's the end of the issue. We get some XMail, some letters from fans. And they do say, this is Tom Brevoort responding, and he's saying that, "Thanks for giving us a shot in our new X line. We want to produce great titles that you want to read, not that you feel obligated to read." So obviously referencing how the Krakoan titles all felt like you kind of had to read all of them to know what was going on. But on that note, though, I did want to point out they've got the X mentions here on this page, which is a pretty nice addition to these X books. They kind of give you all the information on everything going on in the X line, including the checklist, which this is what I just wanted to kind of focus on just for a second here at the end of the video, is how many X-Men titles they're printing right now. And granted, a couple of them are miniseries for sure, like Sentinels or Mystique, but there's 19 X-Men books here. And they're throwing in Avengers and Namor. I'm assuming Avengers because Jed McKay is also writing Avengers, and they're going to be crossing over in a few months with X-Men, but just so many X books. I'm only reading X-Men and Uncanny X-Men and Wolverine, although I'm kind of debating whether to drop Wolverine. I am picking up the Wolverine Revenge and the Deadpool Team Up by Jonathan Hickman, Greg Capullo, and Rob Liefeld, respectively. But it's just so many X titles right now. I feel like if they could maybe streamline it a little bit more, but hey, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have you read this issue? What do you guys think of the current X-Men line? Is it doing it for you? Let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys on the next one.